Bonjour à tous. On est pile poil 17 heures sur les lives confinés du collectif Café. J'ai le plaisir de faire, si ma mémoire est bonne, un des premiers sujets sur la préparation de l'espresso. Donc on va dédier cette séquence sur les nouvelles technologies de la préparation de l'espresso et aussi avec la machine à café et le moulin et quelles sont les nouvelles technologies. Pour cela, j'ai un invité de taille que je vais faire venir, qui est Lauro Fioretti du groupe Simonelli. Je ne sais pas si Lauro est là. À la demande de Collectif Café, on voulait faire cette séquence en anglais. Donc dès que je vois Lauro, on va commencer. Bonjour Elia. On va commencer cette séquence en anglais. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas soit en français ou en anglais. Je vais faire la traduction. Je vois que Lauro est là. Donc on va essayer de l'inviter. Voilà. Savoir s'il est avec nous. Bonjour Lauro, hello.
Bonjour Michael, comment ça va? Tout bien?
Très bien, do you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you well, Mike. What about you? All fine?
I hear you perfectly.
Great, perfect, I'm happy.
I see you perfectly, you look great.
Thank you so much, Michael. Same for you.
In France is a holiday, the 8th of May, but every day is like seems the same as all the others, so it's not, it's sort of a fake holiday for everybody because we're all on holiday for the last 6 weeks, so.
Same in Italy, Mike.
Just for those who don't know you, you're pretty well known. You've been coming to France for over 10 years. Like myself, we're both World Coffee Events representatives and international judges. We get to go all around the world judging. And your company has been, for over 10 years, the technical sponsor for the espresso machines for the World Barista Championship. So I imagine that in all those 10 years, you've learned so much from the different baristas, their demands. Your company and yourself have done a lot of research projects to improve new technologies on espresso machines and also grinders. So
yes,
I think that's pretty interesting, the way that the coffee espresso machines have evolved in the last decade. We'll talk a lot about that today, and maybe what your company and yourself, you as being the technical director and also the academy director at Simonelli, you have two major brands that you have used that have also been sponsors is Nuova Simonelli and also Victoria Arduino. So
correct.
I basically wanted to start out by asking you a question about a lot of baristas, you know, have a misconception about what pre-infusion is. And how does it affect or influence the quality in the cup? And for example, we have at our academy, we have a lot of Black Eagles and Victoria Arduinos, and they're all equipped with what we call an SIS. Can you explain to us what is the SIS?
Yes, sure, with pleasure, Michael. So let's start with SIS. SIS means is an acronym for a soft infusion system, and you know it's exactly what we were saying. Is a system that infuse in a very progressive way the water through the panel of coffee, through the coffee cake. You know, we have to consider, we have to think that when we extract the flavor from the coffee, we extract the liquid and the volatile part from the coffee, sure. There are a lot of chemical reaction inside the coffee between the water, that is the solvent, and the coffee itself that contain all these part that we want, all the flavor we want to extract, and the liquid. And so it's very important we give the maximum permeability to the coffee, to give the possibility to extract the flavor at best. So Simonelli Group has developed this technology during the years with an hydraulic system that create a progressive profile of water through the panel to practically give maximum permeability, stabilize the coffee panel, and reduce as much as possible the possibility of channeling, so of micro channels that can, you know, then, you know, of course, compromise the cup quality.
Yeah. So, for example, what bar pressure would you start with on that pre-infusion? For example, you said it's progressive.
Yes, it's very progressive. So we start with gravity pressure. So we start with a zero pressure. So it's just gravity. So we have drops of water going on the coffee bed. Then the coffee bed is absorbing this water on the surface and is expanding when it's absorbing the water. But of course, because the espresso is a very fine grinding, you don't reach, deeply all the coffee panel if you just work with gravity pressure. So we need to increase the pressure progressively to penetrate all the coffee panel till the end. So the pressure starts with gravity and go in a very progressive way up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars, where you will see the first drops coming out from the filter holder, and then we reach the 9 bar during the infusion
And
phase.
what would the duration of that be? What is the ideal duration of a pre-infusion?
Well, it's of course there is the duration of the pre-infusion depend from many factors, not only from the coffee machine, but also from the coffee that you put, the amount of coffee you put inside the filter holder, the grinding that you are using, the roasting profile of the coffee, and the coffee itself, so the variety that you are using. Generally, all these parameters will change the pre-infusion time. Generally, we can say that in competition, for example, generally you have a great pre-infusion with 6, 7 seconds. So you see the first drops after 6, 7 seconds. I've seen many champions that use this as a reference parameter.
Sure. And what about the flavor? How would you compare the flavor in an espresso that didn't use pre-infusion and one that did use pre-infusion?
Well, the flavor is more rich, is more intense, is more complex because with the pre-infusion, with the SIS, we can penetrate more the coffee cake, we can wet better the cake, and so this will result in a cup that is more thick, you have a better body, higher TDS, and the flavor are more intense.
Yeah. Would this affect the TDS as well?
Yes, of course. Generally, the TDS it's a much is higher. So we tested with SIS and without SIS, and generally you have an increasement of performance between 15 to 30% in terms of TDS.
So I found that most in every case in most any coffees, of course, your pre-infusion cycle has to change based on the coffee, but we've always found a much better extraction with pre-infusion. So I guess we could definitely advise the most baristas to apply this type of technology when they're making espresso. How would that compare, for example, to the old lever machines that used to build the true hydraulic?
Well, that's a very nice comparison, Michael, because also in the lever machine, you use an hydraulical system. It's completely hydraulical. It's only hydraulical, and the system is very similar because when you pull down the lever in the lever machine, the water comes through the coffee with the pressure of the boiler or the pressure of the line, depend from the model of lever machine. So anyway, it's a soft pressure. And you control this timing with the lever. So only when you release the lever, then the pressure will go up because you use the spring to push the water through the coffee.
So this SIS soft infusion system is replicating that type of hydraulic pre-infusion.
For the pre-infusion, it's very, very similar in terms of a curve. It's very, very similar, but it's automatic. You don't have to control manually with the lever.
A little bit less training maybe for that one.
Yes, exactly.
It took me a few times trying on the lever machine to actually get a decent extraction. It's a little bit tricky if you've never done it before.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's tricky to get also consistency because, everything is manual. So you have every time to be focused to get the same cup every time.
Well,
yeah,
that's what everybody's looking for, whether it be a barista, whether it be roaster, or just, any clients, they're looking for consistency in the cup. So the more we have technology to help them repeat the same things, I think we're winning. Now, something we've been dealing with for many, many years, especially you when you all were having your machines tested to be the official sponsor for the WBC, for example. Other companies have done it as well. One of the main issues is what we call thermal stability. So,
Correct.
of course, we can talk about, I would like to start by talking about what you guys invented, which is called the T3 system. Now, the T3, I think it means temperatures for the T, and then the 3, what does...
And in the 3, what does it mean? So, first of all, let me say hello to everyone, because I saw many people that are moving, up in the list, and everyone say hello to us, and so I just want to say hello to everybody.
Oh.
And then let's go to ciao Carlo. Then let's go to the meaning of T3. T3 is a name that we have developed, we have patented as a Simonelli Group, and means 3 control of temperatures. So what does it mean, 3 control of temperatures? We control independently and accurately the temperature in 3 stages. On the main stage, so on the main boiler, where there is the first heating of the water. Then we control the water on the second boiler, so the coffee boiler, because we know that multi-boiler machine has a dedicated boiler for coffee. And most of the company, they just stop at these two levels. So you have a main boiler and coffee boiler. And the group head is kind of passive. So it's a piece of metal that is connected to the coffee boiler in the front, on the bottom, on the top, but with no control of temperature. It's just a radiator, let's say. So the temperature can oscillate on this part of the group, but because we know as a Simonelli Group that the group head is a very important part of the extraction process,
absolutely,
we decide we decide to dedicate a specific control also for the group head. That's why we have the T3. So main boiler, coffee boiler, and group head. Everyone has an independent control with a specific PID, with a temperature probe, and you can set up with just with a click, so with a touch screen, every single temperature as you like.
Okay. So
let me say, Michael, that with this system, when you say about the thermostability, that was a kind of issue, at the beginning of WBC. I still remember the phrase of David Schomer that 10 years ago was dreaming to have a consistency of temperature of 1 centigrade. That's 10 years ago was a dream, a real dream. Actually, a T3 machine, a Black Eagle T3 or an Aurelia Wave T3, have a temperature stability and accuracy with an accuracy of plus less 0.3 centigrade. So we overcome the request of David Schomer, and David Schomer is using an Aurelia T3 on his coffee shop in Seattle.
Yeah, and of course we've all experienced, especially with more specialty coffee and single origins, that 1 degree or over 1 degree can definitely totally change the flavor of the coffee. So that is a very, very important point. Now, we're talking about a multi-boiler system, and also not just that, but also temperature probes to control in those 3 places the temperature. So this is going to give us accuracy. And also, what about, let's say, just to remind you that, like, in the beginning, when Simonelli was the sponsor for the WBC, you guys were using a single boiler machine. But so, yes. And I guess you could say that the cost obviously is going to be more expensive. Maybe who would you say that this T3 system or multi-boiler with probe T3 system is dedicated to what target of clients?
Well, let me say first of all, Michael, and thank you, for the word and to talk about the single boiler technology, because still now the single boiler technology is the technology that is implemented in most of the coffee machines that are still sold in the market. Single boiler technology is a technology that is very reliable and is very cost efficiency, because with a single boiler you can produce different types of water at different temperature. The issues, the challenge of this system is that you have to stabilize the system because it's a single system. And so the challenge of Simonelli Group was to stabilize and get the best performance from this technology. And the performance we got were up to the level of the World Barista Championship. That means 1 centigrade of variation. It is a very, very, critical target for a single body technology. So this proves that a single body technology can be very stable, and can work in many mainstream coffees that just need a single temperature control because maybe they're using a single blend.
Using a blend, and they're not changing coffees. A lot of maybe coffee settings, they're going to be showcasing different coffees each week, or even maybe on the same day. So I think that's where definitely the T3 system is very useful for these types of settings. But we can't forget that 90% or 95% of most people making espresso in different establishments are pretty much staying with, as you say, a mainstream blend that is not going to be as demanding on that. And maybe I guess also if they're using a lot of steamed milk, then they probably would benefit from the T3 system as well.
Yes, exactly. I always say to the customers that even, T3, of course, is the best technology available, but not always is necessary to buy a T3 machine because, depend from your coffee shop, depend how you use the machine, depend the peak times, depend from your productivity, and of course, the coffee that you are using, Michael. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the T3 system. At our academy, we have only that. But we have to also look at the reality of the market, and I think it's nice that you all have, even in single boiler machines, have tried to make it as accurate as possible. And we have just a question. I'm going to go back on the soft infusion system. Superatos, we're going to answer your question about how can you explain a little bit better the soft infusion system?
Sure.
Maybe it wasn't detailed enough for them to understand the actual.
Yes. So practically, let me go back exactly, Superatos. The soft infusion system is an hydraulical system that is equipped inside the coffee machines. This hydraulical system is collapsing that in the coffee machine we have a pump, and the pump is running, the volumetric pump is running at a constant pressure of 9 bar. So generally, when you click, when you push the coffee button, you open a valve in a normal coffee machine, and then your pump starts at 9 bar and go through the coffee panel. The SIS system is an hydraulical system that with an expansion chamber and an hydraulical system behind that collapse the pressure of the pump at the beginning, collapse from 9 bar to 0, and then rebuild this pressure very, very progressively in a very soft way up to 9 bar again. So the pressure is collapsed down to 0, so gravity at the beginning, and then it's progressively growing back up to 9 bar. It's a little bit a concept of a common rail, like in the car system. So you have a common rail, so a common pump that is pushing the water at constantly 9 bar through the group, one group, first group, second group, third group, and this system, according to your activation, is collapsing the pressure and rebuilding the pressure up.
Okay. Yeah. So we're not going to be aggressing the coffee. That's why you call it soft infusion system.
Yes, and exactly. The reason for which we call soft infusion system is that there are in the market some other systems that are working with electronic. The electronic, how it works, practically you open the coffee valve, you spray some water at high pressure, you close it, and then you open again. This system is more aggressive because it's a kind of on-off system that, push water high pressure, close, and then push again. So it's working like in this way. Our system is hydraulical, so it's much more soft in the way it works.
Is the specific reason why the World Barista Championship uses a volumetric rather than a gravimetric? That's actually the next subject I wanted to speak with you about.
Yes.
Weight versus volume. It is true that in the world competitions at the moment, they are using a volume system, but most of the baristas are bringing their own scales. Now, you guys were the first ones to actually integrate this idea, what we call gravimetric, integrate the weight system instead of volume directly into the espresso machine. You call that Gravitech technology.
Technology. Correct, Michael. So, as you say, let me explain first of all why in World Barista Championship at the moment we use volumetric machines, not Gravitech machine. And the reason we do this is because we want to be as much as possible. WBC want to be as much as possible comprehensive. The technology, the Gravitech technology is a very limited, very exclusive technology that only few companies at the moment are available in the market because it's a high-end technology. So if the WBC will restrict the use of the coffee machines in competition only for the Gravitech model, we limit a lot, the number of coffee machines could be used potentially.
Sure.
So, to be fair, with even other company that still don't have this kind of technology, WBC has decided to go with volumetric machines. But as you say, Michael, everyone is using scale in reality in the competition because, of course, scale are much more accurate than volume.
It also permits this, and again, if in a coffee bar setting, for example, they're doing several coffees, that permits them to do what we call a brew ratio. So that between each user, they can actually make a recipe and be much more consistent in the cup quality that will actually be extracted.
Yes. As you say, Michael, when you are working with coffee, single origin coffee, specialty coffee, in which you need a specific brew ratio, and in which you change often brew ratio because you have, for example, 3 or 4 single origin coffees in your shop, and so you have to have a specific brew ratio for each one. In this case, of course, the scale are mandatory, almost mandatory, because you need to.
I visited, for example, Willem Davies, who was a world barista champion. In his coffee shop, he even had different brew ratios, for example, for a latte compared to an espresso, which is actually logical if you think about it. And so this type of equipment is going to make the life of the barista so much easier. David from Pourquoi Café, we will answer your question about eco-responsibility and one of the subjects coming up next. So yeah, I think this is definitely the future, but once again, for people who are doing like mainstream blends, we can't pull out scales and when we have a rush. So this is I think it has to be used wisely. Just like we say, you can buy a Ferrari if you don't know how to drive it. So I think
but also, Michael, you don't have to buy a Ferrari if you don't have this specific use, because in a mainstream coffee shop, in which again, you are using, for example, a consistent and stable blend of coffee, so your shot will be, the brew ratio will be always the same. You don't change often. The volumetric system works very well, and it's also very accurate. So it can do the same job almost of the Gravitech, but in a more affordable way, and you don't have to waste the time, as you say, to wait every single time the coffee during the peak time. So it makes much more sense for these places to use a volumetric machine versus a Gravitech machine.
I'm just curious, what is the percentage of machines that you manufacture with the Gravitech technology?
Well, we can say that probably 70% of the machine are volumetric and 30% of the machine are Gravitech, because as we say, it depends where the machine are then used.
Hey, and once again, all of these options do cost a little more money, so that could also be a factor. Yeah, but I think that's a pretty nice percentage, 30%, which means that people are moving toward accuracy, consistency, and quality. And also the market, the actual market itself is moving in that direction. So now I heard, this is something I haven't tested yet, but I heard a little bit about a new extraction technology that you all have implemented. which is called pulse jet technology.
Exactly. Yes, Michael. Now we are talking about exactly something more advanced. So what does it mean, first of all, pulse jet technology? The name is a little bit is connected to the technology. So the idea is the idea came from a study we have done, a research we have done with the University of Chemistry of Camerino, with which we collaborate since several years. And looking, and watching the coffee panel again, we realized that the coffee panel is very constrained during the extraction because, when you apply 9 bar of pressure to the coffee panel, and if you calculate the surface of a filter holder of 58 millimeters,
Yep.
it means that the coffee panel has a force, it's a damping force inside of about 250 kilograms. So it's a very high pressure, a very high force applied to the coffee grounds. This squeezes the coffee grounds one against the other. So the contact surface of the grounds are limited in this condition because they are all pressed with a high pressure. And limiting the contact surface limit also the extraction. So we try to find a way to have more contact surface, and pushing the water through the coffee panel, we can expand the coffee panel, and this create
for extraction, I imagine.
Exactly. So this create the possibility to the water to have a better contact surface and better extraction of coffee. That's the target.
So probably also can reduce the risk of channeling,
yes,
as well as over extraction.
Correct. So the pulse jet system, what is really nice of the pulse jet technology is that we can control the pulsing in a different way during the 3 phases. So the pulsing we apply during the frequency of the pulse we apply during the pre-infusion phase is different of the frequency of the pulses we apply during the extraction phase, and again is different from the pulsing frequency we apply in the post-infusion phase, because every phase need is a specific pulses to get the best. Correct.
So is just so we don't get confused with the soft infusion system as opposed to the pulse jet technology, how do they actually correlate, work together?
Well, in the pre-infusion phase, they cooperate. So the SIS is always inside because it is an hydraulical system, and the SIS is cooperating together with the pulsing system in the pre-infusion phase. So they are working together in a very, very, very complement way.
Okay, and what models of machines actually are implementing this particular technology?
At the moment, we have launched this technology as a priority line on the Aurelia Wave. So that was a decision of marketing to launch this technology in the Aurelia Wave to give this priority. But we are thinking to extend this technology also to other lines of machines because the customer really love it and they want to have in all the lines of our machines.
We have a question. I think it's interesting. Wanting to know what you think about lower pressure extractions, lower than 9 bars. Now, I participated in a very interesting study with you in Ancona at a university that you all conducted, where we were actually testing like 7 bars, 9 bars, 11 bars, 13 bars, and the results were quite interesting.
Yes, I am correct, Michael. I believe I had many cups of coffee of espresso. I tasted many cups of espresso, for example, extracted at 6 bar or 7 bar. They have with great flavor, with great taste, with great balance. And I have nothing against this. I mean, so that now is many people, many barista they likes, for example, to work at lower bar pressure, and there is nothing against this. Of course, from the study we have done, 9 bar is the pressure that give the best performance in terms of extractions and in terms of also efficiency. So it means then working at 9 bar with the right, of course, with all the right parameters, you can get from the minimum quantity of coffee the best efficiency of extraction. But of course, not always people want to have, maybe best efficiency or strongest coffee. So I have, for me, it's more than fine to have even, different pressure. That's why, for example, Black Eagle is equipped with a system in which you can manually, with just your hand, adjust the pump pressure from externally. So you don't have, to open the machine or do anything. There is a very nice system, very precise, with which you can very easily set up the pressure as you like.
Okay, and we had a question about how does that affect the quality of the pulse jet technology of the espresso?
Great, that's a very nice question. So the pulse jet practically is affecting both taste and flavor, so it's working on both sides. And how we have done a lot of research, and we have created a special panel test with the 6 co-grader in the company to taste the effect of the pulse jet on 4 different types of coffee. So we choose a single origin natural coffee, a single origin fully washed coffee, then we choose a 100% Arabica blend and a mainstream blend with some Robusta inside. And all of these different types of coffee has benefit from pulse jet technology. The effect is that the coffee is coming more balanced. We can control better, for example, the acidity when the acidity is too high. We can control the bitterness to create the right balance.
Also increase sweetness as well.
Yes, the sweetness is enhanced. The acidity can be controlled when, for example, it's going in a dominant way, so we can reduce and control, and same for the bitterness. So enhancing the sweetness and controlling the two, the acidity and the bitterness, we can have the balance. Sometimes some coffees are difficult for the roasters to balance with just the roasting profile, because if you try to balance with the roast profile, maybe you are losing the main character of the coffee, you are losing some flavors from the coffee. So sometimes to enhance the flavor, you have a roasting profile that is top for the flavors, but maybe you have in the taste side a dominant character of acidity or a dominant character of bitterness. So the pulse balance, the pulse jet technology is helping a lot to practically balance these elements.
And also enhance maybe specific typical flavors of that particular coffee or origin that's been used. We had a
Exactly.
Someone had pulled some shots on the Aurelia Wave, and they found there was more body and sweetness coming into the coffee thanks to the pulse jet technology.
Practically changing the pulse jet, so changing there are 4 different scenarios that you can they're already preset in the machines, so you can just go from a soft pulse jet, medium or advanced pulse jet. So just changing these different riding mode, as we call brewing mode, you will see that the machine will announce some flavors or other flavors. Then you choose the flavor you like more, of course.
So on these 4 phases, you can modulate, the barista can actually modulate the frequency of the injection phase?
In the advanced mode, you can. So there are 2 levels. So for beginners, or people that just for people that don't want to go too deep inside, you have 4 presetted modes. So one is called soft pulse jet, one is called medium, and one is called advanced. So you can and everything is already presetted inside. So you can just choose one, and the machine will do the rest. If you are more skilled, so you are, like a person that you can go inside and you can decide for each of these phases the frequency and the number of the pulses. Then you will have the full control. Of course, to go to this level, you need to understand how the pulses works.
Sure, sure. We have a question a little back. First of all, I was hoping I would be drinking some Gucci, but I don't have any more. So,
sorry.
No, they had a question wanting to know, what is the successor? Is there a successor for the Black Eagle?
What is, sorry, the success of Black Eagle?
Is there a successor?
Successor. Sorry. Yes. Well, of course. Black Eagle. Black Eagle.
I don't know.
Yes. We are, of course, the company. Well, Black Eagle is our top line. And it has been in the market already since a few years. So the company is already working on, of course, on the new project of Black Eagle to improve performance of the machine, to improve ergonomics, to improve the design, and so on. So the company, our labs, our R&D department, our marketing department are always working to renew the products.
Sure.
It will come.
Well, let me ask you a question. More and more people are concerned about energy performance, about eco-responsibility, carbon footprint. Have you done anything to introduce this notion of sustainability into the manufacturing of your machines, and actually the use once the client has bought that machine?
Absolutely, Michael. In Simonelli Group, we have three main pillars. One of these pillars, so we have innovation, sustainability, and education. These are our main three pillars of our mission. So we always respect this pillar in any product we develop. And sustainability is the base, is one of the base of the main pillars. So it will be the base of every new product will be developed from Simonelli Group, and probably the first machine that has received this strong impact is the Eagle One, where we introduce for the first time the Neo technology.
What is the new engine optimization?
Yes, Michael, you're right. Great, correct.
So I actually received a mail a couple of days ago from you guys, and it's talking about, our company, for example, is in a big phase of implementing what we call RSE, our CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility. And that affects, this is what a lot of companies are doing now, and they have changed dramatically the way that they're buying, whether it be coffee or whether it be coffee machines or grinders, how they're made, and how much energy is from what we call the LCA, the life cycle assessment, from the beginning to the manufacturing of the machine up until the machine itself is finished. What is that LCA life cycle assessment?
Well, in Eagle One, for the first time, we reach a performance, a great really performance with the Neo technology. In terms of energy efficiency, on average, an Eagle One save 30% of electricity compared to a traditional machine of the same category.
Okay.
And in terms of life cycle assessment, that is even more important, as you say, Michael, because it's the life cycle assessment is measuring the impact in terms of carbon footprint generated by the machine along all this life cycle of the machine. In these terms, we can save with an Eagle One 23% of carbon dioxide produced during the 7 years, on average of 7 years of working of a coffee shop with the Eagle One.
So that's starting from the production of the machine at your factory, and then mostly I would say it's mainly is that minus 30% energy consumption is once it's at the clients.
Correct. All the machines that are energy consuming, like in this case, coffee machine, we have to think that the most of the CO2 carbon footprint is produced during the normal life during the use of the machine. In case of a coffee machine, probably between 95 and 97% of the CO2 is emitted during the normal use of the machine, because you use the machine for many years. So it's very important to reduce this impact with, of course, new technology.
Okay, and so what exactly, let's talk about those 90% once the coffee machine's in use. What actually does this Neo system do to make it less 30% energy consumption?
Well, we are rethinking the engine of the machine practically. We have decided to restart the concept of the machine inside. Traditionally, the coffee machine are equipped with huge boilers, big boilers. No, bigger boiler is better. That was a little bit, the style many years ago. But this is not really necessary. It is really necessary to have these big boilers inside the machine. So we have thinking about what are the performance you need, and according to the performance, you develop the engine. So this was the new idea from which we started the new engine optimization. So we want to produce cappuccinos, we want to produce tea, and we want to produce espresso. How much energy they need this beverage? So we started with the calculation of the energy that this drink needs, and then we have developed inside the machine a very compact engine with a compact boilers, but very efficient. So these boilers are much more compact, they are completely isolated, and they are equipped with a high efficiency heating system controlled by PIDs. The combination of this engine gives the possibility to use much less energy with even better performance. So it's it's a double win. It's a double win.
So Thierry from Gourmet Cup magazine said, "Small is beautiful now."
Yes, I say less is more, Gourmet Cup, and I believe that, yes, you're right, small is beautiful now. I completely agree with this slogan, because also if you look engine of the cars in this moment, all car companies are using smaller and smaller engines, because they are more fuel efficiency, and they give a high performance.
So like on let's say a two-group machine with the Neo technology, how many liters would the boiler contain?
In a two-group machine, in both 2 and 3 groups machine, in the Eagle One, you have a 7-liter boiler.
7 liters.
But yes, so it's a small boiler. Even for the 3 groups, it's just a 7-liter boilers. But this boiler is working at much higher pressure than a normal boiler. So the boiler is constructed with a thicker material, with a thicker wall, and give us the possibility to work. Instead, in a normal coffee machine, you work at 1.2 bar, while in the Neo machine, you can work with a pressure of up to 2.5 bar pressure. So double level of pressure. So compact, but very powerful.
I see. Okay, let's talk about maybe so that's a lot of new technologies that you're revealing to us. Are there anything other? A lot of roasters ask a lot of questions. Maybe some roasters have a very wide line of products, single origins, blends, specialty coffee. Are there any future technologies that you all are thinking up for the future?
Sure, Michael. Of course, world is changing, as you say. Roasters are developing always new coffees, new single origin, new blend, discovering. So we are thinking to help the roasters and help the barista on this matter. So the new machines like the Eagle One, for example, but also the next generation, including the Black Eagle, will be equipped in the future with the Bluetooth technology that give the possibility, together with the combination of an app that you will have together with the machine, give the possibility to have a library called My Coffee, in which you can create and save receipts, as many receipts as you like, in which you set up inside the receipt not only the brew ratio, but all the parameters of the machine, so the temperature, the pre-infusion, the pulse jet system, and so on. And one time this is connected, then you can save and share this recipe between all the coffee community. So if one discover that you have a recipe that works better with that kind of coffee, because maybe can develop better flavor or better taste, you can share inside the community, or the roaster can share.
That's by a Bluetooth connection, if I understand correctly.
Correct, exactly. So this can be done with a Bluetooth connection, and because the Simonelli Group really believe on this technology will be democratized on all the machines. It means that all the Eagle One comes from the factory equipped already with the Bluetooth technology built in.
Yeah, and for example, if I have a customer that wants to change coffees, this way we could actually Bluetooth that recipe to the machine. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Exactly like this, in a very simple way. Just, you switch on the Bluetooth, and then you open your recipe, you send to the machine with the Bluetooth, and the machine will upload the recipe inside. And you will see on the display the name of the recipe. If you want to call Michael McCauley, you will get it with your name, and it will be on the screen,
okay.
Michael.
Gourmet Cup has asked us, we have a couple questions. The first one is, I think you had mentioned that it took 10 minutes if you turn the machine off for it to reach its normal temperature.
Yes, this is another advantage of the Neo, because the Neo is compact and powerful. You don't need, like, in the old generation machine, 30, 40 minutes to, get the temperature. But the Eagle One can reach its temperature, stable temperature, in less than 10 minutes.
Okay, and also wanting to know if Simonelli has also done any kind of new technologies in the Portafilter itself, for example, the shape and things like that. Any work, the diameter, any kind of work being done on the Portafilters?
We are working a lot on the Portafilter. Then our company is working. We are now working for the project of a new Portafilter, and we are working on the project also of a new system. So please stay tuned, and you will see many new things coming out. I cannot say more than this, but we are working on that, sure.
Okay, so with this Bluetooth connection, we have a comment, and I believe this is what would interest me the most, is that a roaster could recommend a profile to a barista.
Sure.
Yeah,
correct.
We could actually, as a roaster, develop different profiles for our line of products and then be able to communicate that to the client itself. I think that's a real advantage. Now, also, I think also in this Bluetooth connection, you have what you call the predictive maintenance, which you can also detect. For example, I think if there's humidity, too much humidity in the frame of the machine, maybe there's a leak, and it can be actually detected early.
Yes, this is our last study, still in progress at the moment. So we are at the stage at the moment in which we have several machines on the market connected with many sensors inside. One of these sensors, as you say, Michael, is the humidity sensor that can detect if, for example, there are steam leaking inside the machine, and so the humidity will go up before, of course, the machine get in trouble. Before you really have a serious problem and you have to switch off the machine and call technician. So in this way we can in advance know that something is getting bad inside the machine, and we can come in time, call the technical service, come in time, fix it without having any breakdown time in the coffee shop.
Okay, all of that is very interesting, but there's something a lot of us put a lot of accent on the choice of the coffee, the espresso machine. But I think you will be in agreement with me that the grinder is just as important as the espresso machine. So
sure.
I remember when we were judging in barista competitions before what we call the on-demand grinders were actually the major part of grinders being put in clients, and they were pulling that lever like 15 times, making a lot of noise, and it wasn't very consistent as far as the dose goes. So we've got these consistency of dosing, and with your Mythos 1 and the Mythos 2, you have on-demand grinding. So we have that freshness in the coffee and more consistency in the dosing as well. Now, one of the big, for example, I think, 90% of grinders being placed at all of our clients, 95 today, are all on-demand grinders where we have that freshness and, of course, enhancing the real true flavors of the coffee.
Yes, Michael. I can tell you, I can confirm you that, okay, beside the Mitos 1 and Mitos 2, that everyone now knows that they are iconic products on the market, and they are practically, they've been, you know, they have been developed as on-demand grinder, but even all the traditional grinders, so what we can call the vertical grinders, all the lines of the vertical grinding has been completely reviewed, and we have a full lines of on-demand grinders, from the little one, the MDH, that is the little home grinder, till to the bigger vertical conical grinder, you know, three-phase powered. They are all, of course, on demand, and they practically over 95% of the production is on demand at the moment. Yes.
You know, in the French market, we have people are very, very sensitive to their grinders making too much noise. So there's a big demand for more silent grinders. What's in the making for your grinders in that aspect?
Yes. Yes, this also was one of the target when we did a research about grinders in, you know, a survey about grinders during the development of the Mitos 1. One of the requirement was they reduce the noise. So we have been done a study again, but at this time with University of Ancona, so University of Mechanics, in one anechoic chamber, to see where the noise was generated. So the noise, of course, is generated by the friction of when the bearings are broken, so the friction with the blades. And this is, of course, something that is unavoidable, because there is a friction inside. But this noise is then amplified a lot from the chassis of the machine, of the grinder, and from the bean hopper. So what we have been working has been, first of all, to insulate completely the chassis of the machine from the motor, and then the bean hopper from the motor itself. Plus, we have been working a lot also on the profile of the blades, to have less, less impact when you go to cut the beans, and so reduce the generation of the noise. So we've been working on these two levels. So reduce the production of the noise, and reduce or cut completely the amplification of the noise into the machine. And if you know, it's now, for me it's a pleasure to work with the Mitos 1, really, or the Mitos 2, because when you go there and you grind the coffee, it's so silent. The frequency of the sound, it's kind of a music. It's more a music than a noise, I would say.
Yeah,
so it's a real pleasure.
In settings where, let's take a coffee bar, for example, they're there to relax. They're, you know, so they're wanting to, not necessarily always hear the grinder that's noisy. Now, there's one other really, it's happened to everybody, maybe different temperatures, different times of the year, where you put your grinder on and you have all these balls coming down into these clumps that are coming into your portafilter, and there's just really nothing you can do about it to avoid channeling when it's like that. Now, there is, I think it's on the Mitos 1 and 2, what you guys call the Clump Crusher. So this helps for a better distribution of coffee. And why do those clumps actually come up?
So, first of all, let's see what is the origin of the clamps. The clamps comes because of the friction that is generating during the cutting. So this friction is creating one electrostatic electricity to the grounds, and because the grounds are very, very, very small, we are talking about particles of microns, they tend to stack each other. The electrostatic electricity is the same electricity you experience, for example, when you get out from a car, because there is a friction between the air and the car itself and the body, and this friction is charging electrostatically the chassis of the car, and then you get the shock. The same thing is happening during the friction, and then it's what is creating the clamps, because the mass is very little, is very low, so the electricity get the power and create the clamps that are almost impossible, as you say, to then to distribute in the filter holder. So the Clump Crusher, what the Clump Crusher is doing? The Clump Crusher is practically a system that is constructed with an anti-static material that practically remove completely the static electricity that has been charged in the coffee grounds. And in this way, the clumps cannot be generated. That's simple when you know the technology.
You can use your correct barista techniques, and the grinder will not give you that big huge problem. That
Absolutely.
it's impossible to avoid channeling and even distribution, which is something that's extremely, as you know, very important for espresso making.
Very, very important. More important than the tamping, I believe. Yes.
Well, what do you think is the importance of how much retention do we have on these type of grinders? How much coffee? Because this is something we really truly want to avoid, is retention of coffee grounds, because that's coffee that's just sitting between the grinder blades and is not going to be fresh ground anymore.
Absolutely. The concept of grinder on demand is to have a fresh grounded coffee. So, of course, if you want to be really fresh, you have to be grounded at the moment. If you look at the shape of the Mitos 1 and the Mitos 2, it's a very strange shape. So it doesn't, some people, especially at the beginning, they were confused because they say, but why this? Is this a grinder really? Because it looks something, different from the grinder. But the shape is a functional shape, because what practically we have done, we have inclinated the engine of the grinder of 30 degrees to give the possibility to the grinding chamber to get much closer to the filter holder. So practically in the Mitos 1 and Mitos 2, the blades are exactly in the front of the filter holder. So there is no retention really at all, because the Clump Crusher is almost touching the blades of the grinder. In this way, you don't have the classical channel, the classical fan that is normally in between the vertical grinder and the Portafilter, because of course they need a channel in between. So we instead of put a channel, we moved the motor, the engine, closer. Okay. Yes, closer to the filter holder. That's the concept.
Temperature of the grind.
So temperature of the grind is also super important. It's also super important. If you want to have a consistency in grinding, you must have a consistent temperature. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
that's your ClimaPro technology.
Correct. This is our ClimaPro technology. So what we have done to have best consistency in the grinder, we have done a system that's called ClimaPro. So we have a consistent control of temperature, and this is made in two different ways. One way is we have two fans that practically they cool down the energy, and so the heat that is produced during the grinding by the electrical motor and by the grinding chamber. So this is cooling down. One is pushing the air, one is sucking the air. So they are creating a cyclone inside the grinder. But this is not enough, because in the morning when you start grinding, the chamber is completely cold. Okay, so there is in the startup, there is a transition phase. So in this phase, there is a small electronical heater on the grinding chamber that just warm up the grinding chamber at the right temperature. That is around 35 centigrade for the Mitos 1 and is programmable in the Mitos 2. So in this way, the temperature curve is perfectly flat from the beginning to the end. Okay,
so as you've discussed, you've gone into a lot of different technologies on the coffee espresso machine, and also the importance of the grinder. And I can see, and I've used these grinders, that this is extremely important as well. And you've also implemented that idea. We have just a few more minutes, Lauro.
I saw that the timing is going on. After 1 hour, we will be disconnected. Yes.
We will be putting this on the IGTV. So those of you who asked that question, just to finish up, you've also put that Gravitech technology onto the grinder to ensure more consistent dosing for the barista. And I believe that also helps them bring out some different flavors in the coffee. that what you call the Gravitech technology? Maybe just really briefly we could discuss it. If we go over, we can just like reconnect again.
Okay, so practically the latest technology that we improve in the Mytos 2 are the Gravitech and the variable speed technology. Both of them, they increase accuracy and they increase flavor, because with the variable speed we can even control the different flavor you can create, you can take out from the coffee beans.
So yeah, I noticed that I was getting, for example, was enhancing body, and also what we all love as roasters is those sugar browning notes that really come out into the coffee in this particular system. Now,
the same coffee, just changing the speed. For example, if you need a more sugar brownie note for the milk beverage, you can just change the speed and enhance this note. Sure.
Okay, so a lot of great work. Thank you so much for all of these wonderful responses to us. Espresso is very complex, so we're learning every day things that, and thanks to companies like you also doing research. So I would like to thank everybody for staying with us, and thank you so much, Lauro, and thank you also Collective Cafe. So this will be our signing off. Thanks for all.